Welcome back to the Front Mission First OP walkthrough. Today, I'm going to show you how I built Paul and Alder after I recently got them. And for that, we're going to go to Setup, so I can show you guys exactly how to set up with their skills and everything. Mainly their vehicles right now, though. So, go down to Paul here over at Rainbow. I decided to put one of the actual missile launchers I got as a reward for a previous mission on him. And that's the PIZ-8 missile launcher. It's actually quite powerful, you know. Attack is 3 times 22, hits 78, range is 6, which is quite impressive early on. And I ended up changing the paint job too, and I gave him 2 different bazookas. On the left shoulder, I gave him a shield, and in the left hand, I gave him the Knots bazooka. And in the right hand, I gave him the Smasher bazooka. I also changed his fire control system, I believe. Let me go to parts right here and show the CPU. And I gave him the Crier CPU because it had the highest long value, the highest long range skill value available currently. And I also leveled up his short skills. You know, I'm going to get into showing the skills next once I take care of the parts. I gave him the Moth VR5, and then for the arms, they're all Moth VR5, but for the legs, I gave him the R's, the actual, you know, the tread legs. I gave him the tread legs, and then for the actual backpack, you know, everybody's got the chipmunk backpack right there. Now for Alder was kind of a different guy with the way his skills were set. So here's what I did. I gave him the Moth VR body, the Moth VR left arm, the Moth VR right arm, and for the legs, I gave him the Grop legs because they gave him 18 movement instead of, like, you know, 16 or whatever that the other ones had. And the CPU, I decided to change it to the Crier on him as well. Previously, he had, like, this Russian-looking one down there. Previously, he had that. And that's mainly for, like, you know, melee and dodge. And, like, if you're going to level up melee, obviously you want to have that on him first so that you can focus on leveling your melee skill up. You know, for the weapons, you go to the left hand right here and the right hand. They've both got the F2 Tonfas, which are melee weapons. And then you go on the left shoulder, I gave him a shield. And on the right shoulder, I gave him the Egret missile launcher. You're in the part of the game where you can pretty much buy an Egret missile launcher now. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, see, you can buy them now. But originally, you get it as a reward in an earlier mission. As you can see, Frederick still got it. And I'm about to redo all these guys' mechs once I get sorted through some other details with Paul and Alder. So that's coming up. Stay tuned. So now if you go over to the actual pilot status here, you can see all the skills. And what I did for Paul and Alder was... Paul actually has some short skills, but he can't learn speed. So the way you essentially set him up is with duel, switch, and guide. And the reason why that's important is because you can throw grenade launchers on him. You know, you can switch fire the other weapon, no problem. And the nice thing about grenade launchers is that whether you're in close proximity at close range, or if you have to shoot downrange at your target, you know, guide allows you to basically, you know, guide where you want the grenade from the launcher to go. And duel, you know, obviously at short range, it allows you to pick where you want the projectile to go at short range. You know, 1 tile versus like 4 tiles away. That's actually quite helpful. And, you know, having switch, that also works with grenade launchers, and he's the best long-range guy in the game. I mean, later on in this series of the Overpowered walkthrough, we'll eventually get Hans, but he's a character for another day, and that guy's the second best long-range character in the game in Front Mission First Remake. And Alder, going to go over Alder's skills here, obviously. You see, the way Alder is set up, you could only pick 3 skills for him, and he starts with stun. So it's actually kind of useless to give him any short skills because it really just wouldn't make sense. So, you know, I leveled up stun in the arena, and then I picked double for his second melee skill. You know, it's a lot better to go with stun and double. You know, you don't really need to pick the first melee skill unless you actually have somebody who's a full-fledged melee like Mayhua over here. You know, she started with double, and then, you know, you could pick stun, and then first, you know, she's a full-fledged melee. So for full-fledged melee characters that have that capability, then you pick first for them after you get double and stun, or stun and double, whatever order comes with. But with the way Alder was set up, all you could really do for this guy was give him, you know, he starts with stun, you give him double, and then you give him the guide skill for missiles. So basically, I guess you could say Alder's a bruiser, because you hit them with the missiles from downrange first to, like, batter them, and then you just finish them with melee. That's essentially the playstyle. And I was looking at the other skills from multiple other pilots in this game, and it really looks like there's going to be a fair amount of stun, double, and guide characters in this game, and I'm going to figure out each character as I go, of course. But anyway, that sums up Paul and Alder, and now I'm going to get right into the actual upgrades for the actual team, which still needs to be finished. And this is just all going to be one video, because, you know, I'm not going to rope a mission into this when I'm going over everybody's gear. Okay? So, basically, we're going to go down to, you know, Frederick over in Witness, and we're going to upgrade him next. You notice I got plenty of actual credits, because I've been grinding the arena in previous, you know, times that were not recorded. For Frederick, obviously, he's going to need a full upgrade, and you always want to pay attention to the stats on your mechs before you pick one. It's like, you know, you could go Drup, you know, maximize the amount of, you know, weight to power ratio if that's your thing, but I want to max out, you know, the overall stats. You know, a little bit weight to power, you know, not as much of a difference there. It's still kind of a difference, but, you know, it's whatever. It'll be all right. We're going to give him all the Moss VR5 parts. And now for the legs. For the legs, I'm going to see what I'm going to do for this guy. Let's put the Grupp on for now, and if I have to go with the other, I will. Let's check the CPU. What's the CPU at? What's his current CPU? Looks like he's running the Meteor CPU, which is fine because, you know, he's using a short-range submachine gun. You know, a machine gun right there along with the grenade launcher. Well, I think we're going to upgrade the grenade launcher to a bazooka. And he's obviously got the chipmunk backpack, so that's nothing to worry about right there. So I'm going to leave his CPU alone, as it's not really a need to upgrade it right now. It's like 36 to 16, that's still good. And, you know, 28 and 28, that'd be counterproductive to his short skill, and he's still using a machine gun. So we're going to leave that alone. Going to go to the left-hand weapon here. Let's see, you got a choice of the Smasher and the Knots. Well, not that much of a difference, really, in weight. I think with the way Frederick is, though, I kind of like the grenade launcher and machine gun combo. But having a bazooka would still be really handy, and Switch still triggers with the grenade launcher, so I'm pretty sure it'd trigger with the bazooka, but, you know, if it turns out not, you know, you can always go back and change it to the grenade launcher. So we're just going to do that for him right there. And now what we're going to need to do is go over to the left shoulder. We're going to make sure we got the most updated shield, and it looks like we do. The WS-20 is still the most updated one, and it looks like the Egret is actually still much better than the other one we had. So we're going to leave that alone. And let's see, right hand, I don't think there's anything to update for that. I don't think we got a stronger machine gun. I don't think there is. Leo Social compared to the PAP 55. Let's see, that's 4x6 compared to 4x7. And it's got the same hit ratio. So, okay. We'll give him that upgrade. Upgrade him to the Leo Social machine gun. One more point of damage, no problem. And for Hunter, obviously, we're just going to upgrade everything right here. So Hunter's going to get the whole, you know, Moth VR5 setup. And then we're going to give him the Grupp legs to make him more mobile. And that didn't really seem to affect anything. And I guess what we're going to do is give him 2 Leo Socials for that extra point of damage at the expense of just a tiny bit extra added weight. And again, you know, the shield's the same. Don't have to worry about the shield. Right shoulder, we're going to give him the Egret launcher. I mean, the Sun Owl is like 3x14. But you got to keep in mind the Egret has a range of 6, and it's 2x22. And we got really high guide and, you know, long missile skill anyway, because those are essentially maxed pretty much. So that's what we're going to do for him. And go over to Jerry Can, and we're going to modify him accordingly. Wait, hang on. I need to check the CPU for this guy, too. Let's see, what do you got? So you got the Cry. No, you don't have the Cry. What do you see? You're running the Setchv 40 to 8. Yeah, you need to update to the Meteor. So, actually, no, wait a minute. No, he doesn't. But he does need it for the missile capacity. You know, the missile on his shoulder. He's going to need that. So, yeah, we're going to update to the Meteor on that one, just to keep it as an open option. Give him a little bit more of an edge for long range. And let's go ahead and check the parts in the CPU on Keith here, as we just did JJ. And he's already got the Meteor. You know, I think that's fine as it is. I'm really not concerned about it. And he's already got the Chipmunk backpack. So we're going to put the Grupp legs on him for the extra added mobility. And then we're going to do the Moth VR5. Oh, wait. Well, we are going to do the arms once we update the body, so we have the power to weight ratio so we can actually do that. So, you know, obviously do the body and legs first, and then you update your gear accordingly when you have that extra power. And there we go. Got a Moth VR5 body and arms, and then the Grupp legs on him. And now we're going to update the ranged weapons. We're going to give him a bazooka, a Knott's bazooka. And then we're going to go to the right hand, and we're going to give him the Leo Social machine gun right there. Left shoulder, as you know, it's still the shield. And the right shoulder, we're going to give him the Egret launcher. You see, right now he's got like this is the Galvados. Yeah, he's running the Galvados 3x11. Could run 3x14. You know, I guess just to test the functionality of that launcher, I'll run the Sun Owl on Keith. But I still favor the Egret a bit more for its range. But I mean, I guess it's really down to your preference. I just feel like the Egret's the better launcher, you know. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm just gonna make a decision. You know, streamline everybody, keep it rolling. She's running the Cryer for the long range stuff. Come to think of it, maybe I should run the Cryer one for Keith too. Just Keith's running a bazooka as well. So, you know, we're going to put the Cryer on Keith. See how that fares. You know, a little bit less on short range, a little bit more on long. And let's see, JJ is more short range anyway, which is why, you know, he's stuck on the Meteor. Let's just double check these guys real quick. Let's see. Witness, what are you running as your CPU? Mr. Frederick, what are you running as your CPU? You're still running Meteor. So I guess you know, Meteor is not a bad choice. What you're doing, because that one has, you know, worked really well previously. So yeah, I think we're gonna be okay with Meteor, the Meteor CPU. If I have to change it later, I will. But I really don't see a problem. I check here, parts for CPU. And a Cryer. Alright, so at this point, for everybody that's running a bazooka or a grenade launcher, what you're gonna do is just put the Cryer CPU on them, okay? In order to work with their setup. But like, you know, JJ over in Hunter here, he's not gonna need the Cryer CPU. He's going to be fine with the Meteor one because he's more centered on, like, you know, short-range combat there with the way I got him set up. So, you know, obviously, Frederick is going to need the actual Cryer CPU. Frederick's going to need one. And then for Keith, obviously for Keith, you're going to want to have the Cryer CPU as well, as he's more long-range with the way I got him set up too. You know, it all depends on the weapons you're actually using. And obviously for Primrose, you know, for Natalie over here, we're going to run the Cryer CPU as well. Because she's running missiles and that, and, you know, it's still pretty good for short range too. So it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Let's upgrade Primrose. Give her the Moth VR body. And obviously give her the Moth VR arms right away. And we're going to give her the Grupp legs. The Grupp, where is it? Yeah, Grupp. Grupp legs right there. And then we're going to go to left hand, update her to a bazooka. So she's got a bazooka. And upgrade to the Leo Social, machine gun. And then obviously, you know, the left shoulder is obviously going to remain that same shield. And then we're going to upgrade her to the egret launcher. She was previously running the Galvados, now she's upgraded. And of course, she's got the chipmunk backpack like everybody else does. Now she's got the Cryer CPU. And we just updated her legs and other parts. So, nothing to worry about there. And now we're going to finish with upgrading Ryuji in the way he's set up. So, you know, Moth VR5 body and arms by default. I'm going to give him the grup legs to increase his mobility. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to throw 2 Leo Socials on him. And, you know, left shoulder's still the WS-20 shield. Right shoulder's going to get upgraded to the Egret. And then we're going to go to the CPU. And we're going to... Let's see, what are we going to do? Yeah, we're gonna upgrade him from the Setchvi to the Meteor. And I'm pretty sure that, what was it, JJ? I think JJ's running the Meteor too, because the way he's set up. Yeah. So it all depends on like what your setup is and what you're going for, what fire control system you're gonna need, you know, what weapons you're gonna need, what adjustments you're gonna make. All that's gonna be an important factor. And for Royd up here, obviously, we're gonna have the Moth VR5, and then we're gonna have the Moth VR5, and then again Moth VR5. Knock that out, and then we're gonna give him the Grup legs to increase mobility. Not a problem. Nothing to worry about there. And given the way he's set up, you know, I'm going to upgrade him to the Meteor. The Meteor fire control system, because, you know, Royd's pretty heavy short range, but he's still got the missiles to actually support him. So what we're also going to do is upgrade him to the Leo Social machine guns in each hand, no problem. And again, you know, the shield's the same for him. And then we're going to give him the Egret launcher. And that sums up what you need to do for, you know, Royd, Ryuji, Natalie, Keith, JJ, and Frederick. And obviously Paul and Alder. But we can't forget Meihua, okay? She's going to need to be updated here. So let's take a look at the actual offerings and make sure we're getting the most out of it. I think the Moth VR5 is still the best one you can actually get out of all these, stat-wise. And that definitely is the case. Alright, so what we're going to do for Meihua is get the Moth VR5, Moth VR5, Moth VR5, and then we're going to give her the Grup legs too, since she obviously needs to be mobile since she's melee. So she gets the Grup legs. Check the CPU. And I think her CPU is going to be fine just the way it is, because she's melee anyway. She doesn't really need the added points. So we're just going to leave that Russian melee CPU on her, no problem, since she's done really well with it. I see no need to like upgrade immediately to any of these guys, because it's really not needed at this point. It's really not needed. And she's got the chipmunk backpack too. So right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check on her melee weapons. What's the status of her melee weapons? Like, does she need to get upgraded? It looks like she does. What's she still using? Yeah, she's still using the F1 Tonfa, and that needs to be upgraded. So we're gonna go all the way up to the F2. And that's going to increase her damage. That's going to greatly increase her damage. So now we got F2 Tonfas on Meihua here. And that covers all the upgrades. So that's the squad in its current state, fully upgraded. And the added details on, you know, Paul and Alder there. That's taken care of. And I'm just going to give a quick overview of the skills, just to show how everybody's sitting right now, just in case you haven't seen any previous videos. So, Royd here, speed, duel, switch, guide, and then, you know, he had the benefit of having a 5th skill if you decide to mess around and, you know, max out another stack in achievements. You know, you pick double for him or stun, whatever your preference is. And then for Ryuji, speed, duel, switch, guide, Natalie, speed dual switch guide. Keith, speed dual switch guide. You seeing a pattern here? And then JJ, speed dual switch guide. And then Frederick, he can't learn dual, so he was speed switch and guide. And then Meihua is strictly melee, so she's double stunning first. And then Paul is dual switch and guide. And then Alder is stun, double, and guide, obviously. So with that all being said, that takes care of all the upgrades and the details on Paul and Alder. That's going to be it for this video right here.